So Canada and Spain's women's teams just played out a 1-1 draw. What does it mean? Well, let's talk about it. So guys, welcome back to What Does It Mean? It's basically our match reaction in terms of what we saw, what we were looking at. And today's an interesting game. We had Canada facing Spain in a women's friendly. Canada's only game this window. Spain has another matchup coming up. And so it was a bit interesting, I think, for me looking at it. I've said this in some of the videos coming up. I felt that Canada, come on, could have found another friendly somewhere, but they weren't able to do so. So you had a matchup between the 3rd and the 6th ranked team in FIFA rankings playing each other in a game that honestly felt very much lopsided. It was one-sided in my opinion, but we'll talk about this more as we go. Again, if you like this type of content, we do primarily Canadian and African content. So if you like that, make sure you give us a like, comment, subscribe, all that fun things. But let's go to the beginning and talk about the starting line. So to start off, we had Andy Spence going with Kailen Sheridan in the back, Kadeisha Buchanan, Vanessa Gilles, Jade Rose, the back three. Your wing backs as Ashley Lawrence and Janine Becky, Simia Wujo and Jessie Fleming in the middle, and then Jordan Huitema, Evelyn Vienne, and Olivia Smith up top. Now, I was curious about this lineup because I wasn't sure if this was going to be a 4-4-2. It definitely wasn't. Was it a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2-1? Or could this have been a 3-4-1-2? I think ultimately how they were pressing a 3-4-3 is what it looked like. But I do think it does bring up and beg the question of where's the best place to put a player like Olivia Smith? Full disclosure, I was watching this game, I'm like, okay, I'm looking at the kids. For the most part, all these other players here, I know what they are, right? Even a Jade Rose, who was young, 21 going 22, she's a player to me, I said, I know what she is. We know what the back line is. We know what the goalkeeper is. We know what the wing backs are. How does Simi adjust to this type of a game? How does Olivia adjust to this type of a game? And so those were the areas I was looking at to kind of see how players would progress, how they would progress, and how they would look. So again, that's where I was looking. If you look at the stats of this game, it was, and the overall stats of this game, look, 32 shots to 5, Spain to Canada, 10 on target to 1. Now this is all on Google here, so that's what we're using here. 70% possession to 27, 773 passes to 228. You're getting to get a feel of how this game was playing out, and it did. 9 fouls to 8. That was a little bit even. 2 yellows, which I found a little bit, complaining and soft in my opinion. I don't think they should have been called based off how the refs were reffing. 3 offsides to 2, Canada having 2 versus 3, and then 10 corners versus 1 for. So for starters, I would start off by saying things that I think I liked. The defense, the back line, I think you're solid. You could argue the back 3 or even the back 5. You have good options across the board. I think 4 of the 5 players are set. The conversation comes down to who are your players, who's going to play right back. Because right now it's a conversation between Janine, who's playing well, Gabby Carl, who's playing well, Jade Riviere when she's healthy. That could be an interesting conversation as we go, having 3 options. And I think what gives Becky a bit of that advantage right now is that she's the versatile one. Not that Gabby can't be versatile, or Jade can't be, but I think Jade right now, her biggest inability is her availability. And that is unfortunate for the player that has promise. So that's a player that we're always going to hope. If she's healthy, I think she gets pushed into that space, into that role. But I think right now, based off their form, you play Janine. But the first half was effectively just block shots after block shots. Kailen Sheridan coming in, huge. And then Vanessa Gilles blocking shots. Kadeisha Buchanan blocking shots. Jade Rose defending and blocking shots. They all were able to get it done. And I think it speaks to how good that back line is. And also B, Spain was that dominant, but all the block shots plus all the saves from Sheridan, and then eventually in the second half, D'Angelo. Spain were a bit unlucky. A lot of good saves from the goalkeepers. They were able to get it done. They hit a cross. They had a ball that ricocheted off of a player onto a crossbar, back out, and it was cleared. They were just not fortunate today. And sometimes the bounce of the ball doesn't bounce your way. And that's a bit of the reality. So first half ends in a 0-0 draw. I think two good opportunities for Canada moving the ball up. You had a Janine Becky run coming in, and then you had Evelyn Vienne who finally got a ball played off of Olivia Smith. I think in this type of game, this would have been a better suited for her instead of playing out wide, supporting in the middle, being more of that cam role and playing more of that 3-4-1-2, so that 3-5-2 effectively. I think that would have suited the gameplay a little bit better. Plus, that would have given her a bit more options to roam and move. And plus, you can move Vienne off to the side and get her into more space. Or you can bring in Jordan as a target to lay off, and then you can try to hit. And that's what kind of happened. Evelyn had a chance and then went wide. In a game like this, I said, like, look, if you're going to get dominated like this, you need to be clinical. At least get shots on frame. And they weren't able to do that in the first half. So the game ends in the first half there. Second half, we have 3 changes. It's a friendly. D'Angelo comes in for Sheridan. Interesting choice. I think D'Angelo actually would have suited this game better just because of how Spain was pressing. But then ultimately, giving them an additional player, I think out of the 2 goalkeepers Canada had there, I think the better one on their feet is D'Angelo. So if you want to give them an option in terms of a playable option in the back, it adds you that sweeper role without having to put a defender there. I think it opened up the pitch a little bit, even though it was still tight. Alidou in for Olivia Smith. I don't think Olivia played poorly. I don't think anyone particularly looked good. So ultimately, it was just a conversation of, hey, it's a friendly. Let's try something new. Much better. And then Julia Grosso in for Simi Awujo. I think Simi held her own in this game, but it was a conversation in terms of how are you going to move? Are you looking to push forward or are you looking to defend? I think Simi played a good, solid game. But again, we're in a friendly, move it off. But I wouldn't even say a good, solid game. She was good. Alidou comes onto the pitch. Then you see a sequence 4 minutes later. Ball gets out wide to Vienne, who plays it back to Alidou. Alidou puts a shot on frame, scores. It's interesting that it's Alidou and Vienne, 2 of the players who, under Priestman, it seems we're always being told we need to see more out of the player. Now, maybe that's their style of coaching or what have you, but those are 2 players who dominated in different leagues, and then it was, well, their leagues aren't good enough. They don't rate that. And I've had my issues with that whole conversation of they don't rate this league or that, and that's fine. But when you're in a crisis of goals and you're not giving some players some chances, it kind of sucks. No, I would get excited. So I think there's a bit of a poetic justice that the goal that they score against Spain are from 2 players who it felt like were fighting the hardest to get into the squad, let alone get minutes. And that's on an Alidou. Also, Alidou only plays against Marie-Esme Alidou only plays against Spain apparently. 2 out of her 3 appearances are full halves against Spain. She's played 90 minutes versus Spain. And technically, she's only down 1 goal, so she's done well. That continues on. Then Nichelle Prince comes on for Evelyn Vienne in the 64th minute. Then Spain start making substitutions. Jenny Hermoso comes in for Mendez in the 75th minute. You have Redondo going off for Martin Prieto coming on. Then you brought on Leon coming in for Haidama in the 78th minute. That keeps going. 2 yellows. 2 yellows for Canada. Ashley Lawrence complaining for a call. And then Sabrina D'Angelo for apparently time wasting. And then Christina Martin Prieto scores in the 89th minute. And then a few more chances here or there, and the game ends there. It's tough to really evaluate Canada in this game because you have an interim coach running it back, basically, right? They're playing the hits of 2024. So it's hard to say, hey, this is what we should do moving forward. Did players play themselves onto the pitch or off of the squad? I think for sure Alidou is more than deserving there. This is where I've had this conversation many a times where I'd say, you don't have to bring in your roster, your full roster always. And I can understand people making the comment say, well, we don't have a coach, we don't have this, let's just, run back the hits. But you're about to enter a new World Cup cycle. You have a Gold Cup coming up, you have World Cup qualifiers that are going to start soon, you have a lot of friendlies. You have the end of the year. I don't think it would hurt to start to explore the ends of the pitch. And by the pitch, I mean the squad and the depth chart. Emma Regan would have been an interesting shout to see her in this game. She would have performed. I think this game could have used a solid CDM. I think Regan would have done a good job there. But then there's other young players or players who were on the fringes of the roster who would have been great to see. Did anyone play exceptionally well? I think Aliou, like we said, earned her keep. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed, not because they played poorly, but I wouldn't be opposed if you said, okay, we'll take the back line, we'll take D'Angelo, give Sheridan the rest of the year off, bring in, say, a Jay Flem, you bring in Olivia Smith, and then you start to explore. See what you can kind of see with players, whether they're youth players, some of your older players like your Zoe Burns of the world, your Maya Joneses. See what they can do in a set of friendlies that have yet to be in. Because it's hard to really evaluate. I don't think this game is a good indication of Canada. I think if you look at the result, you'd say, hey, yeah, it's a 3rd and a 6th ranked team in the world. Evenly matched, we think. I don't think Canada necessarily played a great game. They were able to hold on for a draw. Which means that they'll need a little bit more going forward. Which, to me, either means you need to find a midfielder who can hold so you can push Fleming further up the pitch, or you have a conversation with your starting 11 and say, can we sacrifice a forward for another midfielder to really add to the build-up? That's where I think an Olivia Smith could really help. Or maybe we start to explore with other players. Kind of see how it is. But a lopsided draw, I would say. Canada certainly did survive. They got the draw. Some may have hoped for a win. Even if they got the win, I would have kind of sounded the same way. I think Spain dominated here. Spain is still one of the best teams, if not the best team in the world. I think for them, it's just a matter of creating so many chances. They're going to go in eventually. And I'm glad it wasn't against Canada, but they are going to right the ship here and put it all together. But guys, let me know what you thought about the game. Who stood out for you? If I have a player of the match, I think the goalkeepers. Anything from the back line going. You know what CONCACAF Players of the Year don't ever acknowledge? The back line and the goalkeepers. I think they all performed well. And special shout out to Marie-Èze Mélaidou. Well deserved. Vindication in all the group chats. I think I've tweeted that and sent that to people. And then they're like, vindication for Mélaidou. But yeah, guys, let me know what you thought about the game. What are some of your takeaways? Spain is still good at the footy, in case you didn't know. Canada playing with a lot of guts, playing with a lot of, I wouldn't even say heart, but they defended well, putting the body on the line. But I don't think you want to see more games like this against some of the top teams of the world. So I think, finding ways, and Spain is a different animal, we know. But I think they still are performing well, and I think we'll see who Canada plays next, and we'll kind of go from there. But until then, guys, again, let me know what your takeaways, who are your standouts, MVP of the game, and as always, I'm going to stop talking now.